Hi everyone, it's Brandy Vanderheiden, and I'm really appreciating all of the comments that have been coming in through the course, and it's giving me a lot of ideas of ways that I can support you. And here's one of the things that came to me when I was reading some of the comments, and that is, when you start working with your nervous system, one of the most important things is knowing where the brakes are. It's almost like driving a car, but I'm going to use a different example because, back in the 1990s, what was popular, and some of you may remember, is the inline skating. Maybe some people still do this, but it was like roller skates with all the wheels on one line. And I thought that would be easy for me because I had roller skated, I had ice skated, but going through a place that had hills was a little bit of a different story. And little known fact, I was living in New York City at the time and went to Central Park to learn how to inline skate. And what I didn't realize was Central Park is not flat. So, I did okay starting out, and there's a movement that you have to sort of put your foot forward, which was very different from the other kinds of skating I had done. And so I had gone with a friend and was doing fine, and I started going up a hill. And I reached the top of the hill and quickly realized that I did not have the skills to figure out how to safely stop going down this hill where there were so many other people whizzing by on skates or on bikes or running or just meandering. So if someone just happened to go across the front of me, I would have a hard time avoiding them. So it was pretty dangerous. And so I found myself going down this hill and trying to figure out how to stop without face planting. And I sort of just figured out how to skid a little bit and ended up going straight into a bank of grass. Thank goodness for grass. And it slowed me down enough until I could get my feet on solid ground again. And I actually don't think I ever went rollerblading again after that. But and it turns out the irony is that they had people in the park that were watching newbies like me to make sure that people were safe, and the person was watching me go down the hill the whole time and just waiting for me to face plant. It's like that wasn't very attuned helpfulness, I have to say. But the moral of the story is before you start going downhill at high speeds, you want to know how to get your brakes working. And so that's why some of the things that we want to start with in the beginning of working with your nervous system have to do with how you know how to stop if things start to pick up. Now, this is a good thing to know in your daily life because sometimes you'll just get triggered and you need to know there's a way back down. And when you're working with trauma, with your somatic experiencing practitioner or whoever it is you're working with, and something starts to rise up, your nervous system wants the confidence that after it comes up, it'll also come down. That's why I often use the glitter bottle. The glitter gets shaken and then it calms back down. And what happens most of the time is that we don't give enough time for the glitter to settle back down. So that's one of the things that we're going to use. So I'm going to tell you there's two different ways to look at it. One is if you take your foot off of the brake pedal and just let the activation come up a little bit, or let yourself notice the activation that's there, can you do that just a little and then let yourself reapply the brakes? And so this can be done with just a little experiment. So for some of you, just thinking about sensations in your body, that will start to increase things. Do you have a thing that you can use that will just raise it a little bit so that you can test it? So it's kind of nice because out in the real world, you may not have enough control over the conditions to make it a small amount of activation. So you can test something out. You can try thinking about something in the past week that irritated you a little. Now, remember, we don't want to think about the thing that's most irritating to you. And there are a lot of those things out in the world right now that you could choose from. So if you just pick something that's lightly hard, like I was in the line at the grocery store and someone cut in front of me, and then they had a dozen coupons and wanted to write a check. And I was in a hurry and I felt myself get irritated. And just telling the story to yourself now is the activation you want to work with, not trying to remember the activation then. That doesn't matter because we're working with what's present. Then after you let yourself feel that, then use the tools that you're starting to build for letting the activation settle. So those could be time, those could be good self-talk. Okay, my glitter has gone up, but it's going to go back down. That could be I need to hold on to a friend, or only do this exercise if there's someone who can help you. Those sorts of things. I'm going to do my breathing out. I'm going to look at nature. But having those things handy to start the experiment. So the more confident you get that you can bring down your glitter after activation, the easier it's going to be for you to engage with healing trauma, and the easier it's going to be for your nervous system to change a pattern. I don't have to go from 0 to 100 anymore. I can do this other thing. So those are the main things, is like looking at how you can lift the brake pedal, try a little bit of activation and settling. And the second thing is, when you get triggered and it goes from 0 to 100, making sure that you have some braking mechanisms in place that are much more reliable. So that takes a lot of practice, and the triggers are often going to happen when you don't want them to, and more frequently, and all of that. So practicing those braking mechanisms will really help. All right, let me know how it goes.